Teachers of Reddit, what was the best excuse for being late that turned out to be true? Had a student asked to leave class once the test was finished because his lung had collapsed a couple days earlier and he was still recovering. He then pulled up his shirt to show me the valve they had inserted. I told him he didn't have to take the test, but he had already studied for it and wanted to get it over with. I also had a student asked to leave after the test because her husband had died the previous day and she had to make arrangements. Insisted on taking the test. My students are hardcore. My first year of teaching. Had a senior who showed up to the first day of class pregnant. Passed my class and graduated, though she was on maternity leave from spring break until the last week of school. Had a student whose mom had a stroke in February. Dad didn't speak English, so this girl had to handle everything with the hospital, and eventually, with the funeral home. This girl passed. Edit. My class had a student whose brother had a stroke during spring semester. She missed a week of class, then finished my class with a high A. Had a student whose father had a massive heart attack, wholly unexpectedly, in April. He missed a day or two of class and finished with an A. Probably a few other incidents that I'm forgetting. All this to say that when a student conveniently was absent for 3 consecutive tests in my class, then cheated on all 3 of them when he was making them up, I had no sympathy whatsoever. I have 2. 1. A soldier in an online class. He apologized for being late for turning in a paper. His reason: he was in a firefight the previous night. That was excused promptly. 2. A student turned in a paper that was singed around the edges. His claim was he and his girl were getting romantic, and a candle lit his drapes on fire and I guess he pretty much burned his whole side of the house down. Verified the story with news that night. Damn, he still managed to save the paper though. My dad was a teacher in a school that is also used for filming a British TV soap opera. He would regularly be told that students were late due to having to do several takes. They would just walk around in the background of scenes. A few weeks later you'd see them on the TV. Student at uni was late for an 8 a.m. because the night before I slept in the hallway of one of our class buildings. Doing HW. We had sofas and desks around there so it was a nice and quiet place to study. Also open 24/7. Woke up around 8:30 and ran to my class, which was one floor above the one I was. The professor excused me and told me I could skip his class because they saw me sleeping there and said something on the lines of, "At least you are doing your assignments, so I'll let you go this time." Edit. Grammar. This is nice, but at the same time I would have been like, you saw me and didn't wake me up. Lol. Yeah, I kind of felt that way, but at the same time it would have been weird and embarrassing to be woken up by a professor. I was already running late and was hit by a car outside my class. The professor saw it through the window. I still went to class and she was cool about it, since I was hit by a car. Once, my dad came early from work. Him and my mom decided to surprise me by coming to pick me up at school. On the way there, they see a large group of people at a pedestrian crossing, and an ambulance. Then they see me lying on the ground. I had just been hit by a car. It turned out I was fine. Nothing broken, only knocked out with a huge contusion to my face from hitting the curb. But I gave them a serious scare, and had a huge black eye on the class photo. The next week, I had a guy who worked for me called in late because his pet python ate the dog next door. He was forced to kill the snake to retrieve the remains of the dog. Then he had to bury his snake. That is absolutely wild, though very sad. Not a teacher, but I think you'll enjoy this. He hit a pig. Yes, the animal. He hit the feral pig with so much force with his car it bounced across his hood and came through his windshield. He arrived late to work. Again, this time by taxi, so I assume he's got some stupid excuse about car troubles. I get ready to dig into him for being late for the third time in 2 weeks, and he walks in white as a sheet and small patches of blood on his white collared shirt. The dude had photos of the pig lodged in his windshield. I gave him a pass and told him to go home and take care of it. When my boss asked where he was, I told him the story and showed him the photos. When you're late for work and can call in a favor with your buddy at the hog farm, monsieur. Not me, but my program coordinator told the story at orientation. Girl was a really good student. Always on time. Studies like crazy. Good grades. Overall, close to perfect student. Pass or fail exam comes and she's a no-show. They call her, text her, email her. 3 hours after the exam starts, she walks in with an IKEA catalog and the name and phone number of the manager written on it. She had been stuck inside of a broken-down elevator at IKEA. She had no cell service in the elevator, so she couldn't call and explain. They let her start the exam in a separate room, monsieur. I really do believe this story. But wouldn't it be hilarious if they were so brilliant that they just grabbed an IKEA catalog from their mail and wrote down the store phone number on it? Coming up with that whole story. The creativity alone would warrant being late emo. Lol. I totally agree. It's a relatively small city, about 1 million people, and was easily corroborated as a funny tidbit on the evening news about a group of 8 customers stuck in an elevator for 4.5 hours. Not a teacher, but a high school kid left class for the bathroom and came back like 20 minutes later. Obviously the teacher thought he was skipping class, so they asked them why they took so long to use the bathroom, and the kid said that ran out of toilet paper and had to use his sock instead. Sure enough, he was only wearing one sock. Normally I would think it was just a joke and they had some logical reason for only wearing one sock. But this kid was colossal dumbass. At least he didn't put the sock back on. Ugh, God take my fucking up, dude. In university, I had a teacher who was very late one day because of what he called car troubles and a bit of a bad day. Some days later he told us that what actually happened was that 2 guys on a bike cut him off at a traffic light, slashed his tires, pointed a gun at him and yelled out his name before speeding off. Meanwhile, another group broke into his house, roughed everything up, took his hard drive and set fire to his computer. My teacher is a journalist who is writing a book about corrupt army officials and their links to narco-paramilitary groups in Colombia. That was meant as a soft warning to shut up. He seemed off in class, but I can't believe he actually taught us that day and didn't seem nearly as shocked as you would expect from something like that. Okay, I'm not a teacher, but this kinda fits. So when I was in 8th grade, I stayed late to help clean up with my science teacher because I ain't no bitch. Anyways, I was a few minutes late to my next period, so my teacher told me to tell my next period teacher some wacky code phrase. I can't remember it for the life of me, but it was really weird. Maybe something like she sells seashells on the seashore. IDK. But it took my teacher a moment to process what the fuck I just said, but she laughed and said, "You're excused. IDK, it kinda fits." Yeah, it fits the spirit of this AskReddit post. Too bad you forgot the words. That was the secret password for high schoolers all over USA to be late for class. My mom's ex has serious mental issues and terrorized us all night by pounding on the doors in windows as he texted her purposely, using our Wi-Fi, until I chased him away with a baseball bat. And we both overslept. That one got me a chance to retake the test I missed in first period. But the truth is that happened a week prior to me being late. And on a weekend. My mom's just a real G and backed up my story that it was the night before, regardless of when it happened. I'm sorry you had to go through that kind of terror. I hope you're both doing better and are free of the jerk. Not a teacher, but in primary school, we had a senile cat. It peed all over my workbook. I thought about it, realized the teacher would not believe me, so I carefully double-bagged it in 2 plastic bags and brought it to school. I ran to school, Just made it on the bell. Teacher asks where my workbook is. I tell her the cat peed on it. She says don't lie. Where is your workbook? So I pick up the plastic bag, put it on the table and tear open the plastic. The book had dried, but the smell was so bad the teacher gagged. She got me to write my lessons on a separate paper sheet for the day and never accused me of lying again, and never accused me of lying again. Well, you see, I had to break up a fight between the tiger and the bear. I'm a teacher and I was the one who was late. I was late to school once, because I thought it was Spirit Week and showed up to school dressed for PJ Day. I realized my mistake in the parking lot. Luckily, I had first hour plan. I raced home, 30 minutes one way, changed, and went straight back to work. I got back to school with 10 minutes before my class came to me. At the time, my DD attended the district's pre-K program. Monsieur, I walked her over to the elementary school and, as we were going in, DD chirped, "Sorry, I'm late. Mom wore her PJs to school. Your designated driver?" Ha ha ha. No. DD equals dear daughter. Typically used on parenting forms. Two different students in the same class. A girl who came to school at lunchtime told me that she had spent the night at her grandparents' in other city, and they woke up early in the morning as the house was ablaze. Yup, could confirm her story online. The house wasn't too badly damaged and everyone was okay. Thankfully, a guy who the week prior blamed a tiger for his tardiness claimed that he only had one pair of pants. When he woke up in the morning, his pants was wet, and he couldn't walk around with a soggy bottom. So he threw the pants in the dryer and waltzed off to do other stuff. And later he took the pants out of the dryer, only to discover that he had forgotten to turn it on. And, well, he had to spend another hour to dry the pants. His mom told me that, as he had decided to switch to a specific style, he had donated almost all his clothes. He actually only had one pair of pants. Wait, so was the tiger story true too? Would you rather have half a sentence explaining how a tiger made someone late, or 2 paragraphs detailing someone who gave away their clothes and can't work a simple home appliance? I think Op made the right choice. Oh no, his tiger story was made up. It was very dramatic, though, as he went into great detail about how this menacing feline was waiting outside his front door and how he had to stay indoors to avoid it. I'll admit that I adored that student, but he had a tendency to get in trouble. One day the principal rushed into my classroom and told me to come get student. He was causing a great disturbance, as he was swimming in the fountain outside school and blowing water at the first graders going by. Fortunately, they weren't that scared by this 16-year-old somewhat odd water games. I was the teacher and the one who was late. I'd gotten dressed in the dark so my husband could sleep, and was extremely pregnant to boot. I got to school early, and when I sat down, noticed I had 2 different shoes on. I had the same style in 2 colors, so they felt the same when I put them on. I rushed home to take care of it. One of my professors said that the first time she argued in front of the Supreme Court, she was so nervous she accidentally put on 1 black shoe and 1 dark blue shoe. There was no time to go back and change it, so she argued her case with mismatched shoes. Lol. My dad intentionally wears mismatched shoes to jury duty. He also brings my old Pokemon handbook to read. Usually gets out of it on account of seeming crazy. Actually fashionable though. I am not a teacher, but my dog seriously ate my homework. I then searched for it for 20 minutes and gave up. My horse stepped on it, ripped, half-chewed a few pages of my homework. I skipped school for a day as he was in an actual life or death kind of scenario, so I was already hanging it in late. Teacher did believe me, but I brought what I could to class and said he could either accept these half pages or give me new ones to redo during my lunch hour. I got to redo them, Monsieur. ETA. I had been up all night with him and tried to be productive, but fell asleep beside my books while still in his pen stall, which was how the horse got access to it. In 4th grade, my dog ate my vocabulary sentences. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.